What if there were no men on Earth? Anywhere, ever. Not a single one. No fathers, no brothers, no male scientists, no male leaders. Just gone. Sounds like science fiction. But what would actually happen to humanity? Would we survive? Would the world be better? Or would everything slowly fall apart? Let's find out. The first question, and the most urgent one, is reproduction. Without men, natural pregnancy stops completely. No new babies, no next generation. The human population would start shrinking, and fast. But science has some genuinely wild answers to this problem. There is something called parthenogenesis. It is where an egg develops into an embryo without any sperm at all. This already happens naturally in lizards, in birds, in certain fish. In humans, researchers are actively working on making it possible. It is not science fiction anymore, it is science in progress. Then there are sperm banks. Right now, today, there are millions of frozen samples stored in facilities around the world. Humanity could theoretically keep reproducing for decades using existing supplies alone. And the most futuristic solution? Stem cell-derived sperm, grown entirely in a laboratory. Scientists have already achieved this in controlled experiments. In a women-only world, this technology would be the #1 global priority, funded by every government, researched by every university. It would be cracked within years, not centuries. So yes, humanity would survive, just very differently. Now let's talk about who runs the world. Research from the United Nations shows something consistent across decades of data. Countries with more women in leadership positions have measurably less corruption. They invest more in healthcare, more in education, more in long-term planning. Rwanda is a real living example. Women hold over 60% of parliament seats there. And Rwanda is one of Africa's fastest-growing and most stable economies. In a women-only world, leadership would likely shift, more collaborative, more community-focused. Less about dominance and ego, decisions made for the long term, not just the next election cycle. But, and this is a crucial point, conflict would not disappear. Human nature does not change just because gender does. History shows us that women-led societies still had wars, still had power struggles, still had inequality. New hierarchies would form around race, class, wealth, and age, because that is simply what human societies do. The problems would not vanish, they would just look different. What does everyday life look like in this world? Heavy industries, construction, mining, military, would need to change fast, not because women are incapable, but because the average physical differences would push society towards smarter solutions earlier. More automation, more robotics, more technology doing the heavy lifting. In a way, a women-only world might accidentally accelerate human technological progress by decades. Now, violence. Global studies consistently show that men commit over 80% of violent crimes worldwide. A women-only world would be dramatically safer on the streets. Gender-based violence, completely eliminated. The gender pay gap, irrelevant. It would not even exist as a concept. Sexual harassment in workplaces, gone. Many of today's deepest social wounds simply would not exist. But new challenges would rise to take their place. Mental health, social isolation, new forms of discrimination. Because humans always find something to struggle with. That is not pessimism, that is just honesty. Here's where things get really fascinating. Without men and women existing side by side, the entire concept of gender would evolve into something we cannot even fully imagine today. Fashion, language, social roles, everything redefined from scratch. Romantic relationships would still exist. Love would still exist. Families would still exist. They would just look completely different from anything we recognize now. And culture, art, science, music. Throughout history, women were actively prevented from contributing equally, banned from universities, dismissed from laboratories, erased from history books. Imagine a world where every scientist, every philosopher, every inventor was always a woman. The Renaissance looks different. The Industrial Revolution looks different. The space race looks different. Human civilization itself, reimagined from the ground up. And this is not just theoretical. We have real living proof. The Mosuo people of China have lived without traditional male-headed family structures for centuries. Women own the property. Women lead the households. Children are raised by the mother's family, not the father's, and their society functions peacefully, stably. The Minangkabau of Indonesia are the world's largest matrilineal society. Over 4 million people, passing land, wealth, and family name through the female line. They are not struggling. They are thriving. These societies exist right now, today. They prove that female-centered civilization is not a fantasy. It is a documented, functioning reality. But here is the truth that this entire thought experiment quietly reveals. A world with only women could survive. It could even thrive in many ways. But it would always be reaching for something it was missing. Because the greatest civilizations in human history were never built by one half of humanity alone. They were built by both. Men and women are not opposites. They are not competitors. They are two halves of the same species, each carrying something the other needs. Women bring collaboration, emotional intelligence, long-term thinking, and community. Men bring physical drive, risk-taking, structural thinking, and protection. Neither list is absolute, neither is a stereotype. But together, those qualities created every hospital, every school, every piece of art, every scientific breakthrough that has ever existed. The question was never, which gender is more important? The question was always, what happens when we stop working together? History already answered that. Every society that suppressed women collapsed or stagnated eventually. Every society that excluded men from family, purpose, and contribution fractured at its core. Balance is not just a nice idea. It is the engine that runs civilization. Men and women are equally needed, not in a political sense, not in a debate sense, in a fundamental biological civilizational sense. We were designed, whether by evolution or something greater, to complete each other, not to replace each other. So the next time someone asks, could the world survive without men? The honest answer is, maybe, for a while, with a lot of science and adaptation. But the better question is, why would we ever want to find out? Because the world does not work better with only women, and it does not work better with only men. It works best when both show up fully. For each other, with each other, because of each other. That is not weakness, that is the whole point. So what did you think of today's topic? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know your take on this. If this video made you think differently about something, like it, share it, and subscribe, because every week we explore ideas that challenge the way you see the world. See you in the next one.